Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 46 of the Rock Podcast. For those about to pod, we salute you. In this episode, we discuss the letter C in the A to Z of rock. There's also rock news, new rock on the block, where we discuss recent releases. There's, of course, Hidden Gem Time and Unsung Heroes. So without further ado, here's everyone's hero. Here's Brian.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, buddy.
You're welcome. I think I might have done that intro before, but anyway, whatever. It was a good one, all the same. Hope you enjoyed that.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay, thank you. And you?
I'm doing good. It's been a few weeks since we've spoken, and it's been your birthday, young man. So happy birthday.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Did you get anything nice?
I got some amazing presents and gifts and cards and texts and best wishes. That's very kind of you. Everyone, thank you. Those who took the time to send best wishes and those who bought me a present, including you, Brian.
I did.
An amazing piece of vinyl celebrating the Number of the Beast album.
And your
very
birthday was on Record Store Day as well.
That's true. I didn't go to Record Store Day.
No, you were in the pub.
That's true.
But I went on behalf of us.
Did you?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I've tried Record Store Day once or twice, but when I've got there, there's never been anything I want left. And when I have been earlier in the day, the queue has been down the street. So I've gone to the pub instead, probably. Did you buy anything?
I bought the Rainbow Rising album.
Oh, did you? You bought that?
Yeah.
Oh, is that some sort of reissue?
Yeah, it was. For me, Record Store Day. I know that there's artists and bands put out exclusive things for Record Store Day, but I always like to just go into a record store. What I nearly bought, Matt, which was more down my street, was I nearly bought Prisoners in Paradise Europe Collection Edition picture disc for 30 quid.
That's all right.
Yeah, and I in the little shop in Dunbar. I may go back and pick it up at some point, but I nearly bought that. But I bought Rainbow Rising instead.
Good choice. Great album.
Exactly.
And of course, we'll cover that in the R's.
Well, I'm sure we will.
A to Z of rock.
Along with Mr. I was going to say. See, I get this wrong. I was going to say
Mr. Ritchie.
Yeah, well, I was going to go Mr. Ronnie. But we'll probably cover Mr. Dio in the D's.
That's
coming
true.
up soon.
And no prizes for guessing. We'll be covering the D's as well. But more of that next time.
Exactly.
So, what has caught your eye, Bri, in the news?
Well, Aerosmith have just announced their farewell US tour. So for our US listeners, you're in for a surprise and a bit of a brilliant package because Aerosmith are going out, sadly, without Joey Kramer. Joey's not making the tour. He's not. He's still a member of the band, but not touring. And the Black Crowes will be their special guests. So that'll be a fantastic package, kicking off in September and finishing up in January next year. Hopefully, we might get some European shows. So
Yeah.
whenever we're talking about who's going to headline Donington in 2024, probably Aerosmith will be on the list.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that's come up in the news.
No, I look forward to that. And knowing the band, as we sort of do, this is probably it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they're obviously demonstrated by Joey Kramer doing that thing, which seems to be quite a regular thing nowadays. We talked about it with Paul Quinn last time. Although I don't think Brian Tatler's going to replace Joey Kramer playing drums in Aerosmith. But yeah, well, I mean, as you said, if you get a chance to go and see Aerosmith, they put on a hell of a show. And fantastic songs, of course, hit after hit. So, yeah, looks good.
Yeah.
In other news, Eddie Van Halen's famous guitar, or at least one of them, that was used in the Hot for Teacher video back in 1984, has recently sold at auction. Now, I know you like guitars, Brian. You've got one or two. You can play the guitar. You're not very good, but you can play. As we've established many times.
Maybe by episode 100, Matt, I might be a little bit better.
No, I joke. Brian's a very accomplished musician. Has an A minor chord coming on, by the way.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, good. Anyway, so Eddie Van Halen's custom-made Kramer electric guitar, as I said, it was played in the Hot for Teacher video. I mean, I just can't believe these numbers. It's sold for just shy of $4 million. I mean, it's just, and it is an iconic guitar, of course. I think you'd like it in your collection, wouldn't you?
I have never had a Kramer guitar, but yes, I would. Eddie's guitar nestling beside a Muscle Matters would be very nice indeed.
I think if you paid $4 million for it, you'd probably keep it in a secure vault somewhere.
Yes.
Just get it out on special occasions. $4 million for a guitar. Yeah. Staggering, isn't it?
It is.
When you think about
and
it.
it's not, is it something like only the world's third or fourth most expensive guitar in auction? Because Kurt Cobain's acoustic is still the number one because it sold for about $6 million. It's frightening,
staggering, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, we talked about it. I don't think you and I even, looking down the side of the sofa would have conjured up that amount of money. Could have bought maybe a, I don't know, a string or something from it, possibly. We'd have really sold every single item we own. But anyway, I mean, obviously the great man, left a fantastic legacy.
Every time there's a little bit of news about Van Halen, you go, wow, what a guitarist he was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Amazing. In other news, so I went to a couple of gigs. I'll just mention those.
Yeah. Who'd you go and see?
I went to see an excellent double bill, actually, down in Brighton, of a Canadian band called The Commoners, who are well worth checking out. Nice guys, too, actually. It was one of those double headlining tours. They're one of those bands that I think you'll hear more of in future, The Commoners. First album, more recent album called Find a Better Way is out. It's been out for a couple of months. Well worth checking out. Mm-hmm. Needless to say, I bought a copy of that when I was there. Got the lads to sign it, which is great.
Are we giving that away as a competition prize?
No, we're not. I'm keeping that for myself.
Maybe we'll have to start buying double of everything, Matt. You keep one for yourself and then one as a competition.
Oh yeah, maybe I should. That's a good shout, actually. And then the first album is called No Stranger from 2016, but well worth checking out. Really good band, and also on the bill was Troy Redfern, who again is an up and coming artist. One of those artists I think that you may have seen at festivals. He's certainly going to be at the Made of Stone festival that we're going to in the summer. Excellent. Plays slide guitar, and great songs. Very prolific. Yeah, it's his sixth album, Wings of Salvation, which came out last year. I saw him actually with the Choir Boys last year. So well worth checking out. If you get to see Troy or indeed the Commoners, try and make the effort to go and see them because they're, as I say, both up and coming, and they appreciate people going to see them. And also, I went to a Planet Rock event. Our friend Matt won us entry to a meet and greet with Jay and Scott from Rival Sons, which was quite something. An acoustic set in the Planet Rock studios, 5 or 6 songs. Got to meet the guys afterwards. Lovely guys. I was a bit starstruck, of course, as you can imagine. But they were lovely. They're very humble and very friendly and very cordial and very accommodating. But it was an amazingly intimate event. There must have been about 15 people in the room to watch them. So, hats off to the Rival Sons for an amazing lunchtime set. I think Jay Buchanan, the singer, was struggling because literally they just not long got up, obviously being on a bit jet-lagged. So that was good. We'll put some Rival Sons on the playlist as well as the Commoners and Troy Redfern, of course.
Yeah, they've got Rival Sons. Is it their new album's due out soon? It's Dark Fighter.
That's right. Yeah, they played a couple of songs from that. Actually, it sounds great.
And talking about great singers, because Jay is fantastic,
Oh,
and
amazing.
yeah, Steve Perry, who is the amazing voice of Journey, or former voice of Journey, because he's retired from live shows. Steve Perry has turned up as a guest vocalist for an Irish folk band called the High Kings, Matt. The High Kings they've got a new single coming out, and they're going out on a world tour, and they've Steve Perry is guesting on a track called The Streets of Kinsale, and it is, if you listen to it, it's Irish folk music. So the world tour, our colleagues and or our again, anybody in the US, watch out for Steve. He may end up guesting on stage, because if you remember, the last time Steve was on stage, he guested with the band The Eels. And the internet sort of broke down when Steve Perry is seen live on stage for the first time in, what was it, 19 years or something, and it was like,
that's right.
Yeah, he played with the Eels. So yes, Steve Perry is now playing Irish folk music.
I think the moral of that story, boys and girls, if you're in a band, call Steve Perry. You might just say, "Yeah, okay, I'll play on your album. I'll sing on your album.
Exactly.
I'll come and jam with you when you play in, LA or San Francisco or wherever."
Yeah. Well, he's going to be singing on Dolly Parton's album, allegedly.
That's true.
Yeah, they're going to duet on Open Arms.
It's going to be some album, because I read recently that Vince Neil has been added to that roster as well. Vince Neil from Motley Crue, which would be interesting. I'm not sure what Motley Crue song he and Dolly are going to sing. I hate to think, frankly.
Shout at the devil.
Possibly. I can't see them doing Girls, Girls, Girls.
No.
Side by side.
No.
But we digress. But yeah, looking forward to that album, actually. It should be out soon.
Yeah.
But the only time in my life I can say, without a shadow of doubt, that I've looked forward to a Dolly Parton album coming out.
In related Irish rock news, sad news recently, Matt, that Horslips guitarist Johnny Fain died. Horslips are widely regarded as the creators of Celtic rock. Wasn't Thin Lizzy? It was Horslips. Somebody who we mention on the show quite a lot, Pat McManus from Mama's Boys, has guested with Horslips many years. And for those of us who watched the Old Grey Whistle Test, how can you not remember Horslips with the playing the track Derrig Doom, and the lead singer with his electric mandolin and his silver glove, and it was all very mythology and Irish Celtic rock. So sad news that Johnny's passed, and I know that the band have lost a couple of members recently, but they still go out and play and keep the music. And for those of you who may be just coming to Horslips just because we've mentioned it on the show, fear not. There is a recent anthology box set which has just been released, a 35 CD set, Matt.
Amazing.
Called More Than You Can Chew, which if I was buying a box set and it had 35 discs on it, I don't think I'd... Yeah, that's a big anthology.
You need another shelf for that, don't you? That is an anthology.
That is an anthology.
And a half.
It's a tome.
Indeed.
Exactly.
Amazing. 35 CDs.
35 CDs.
It's more than my entire collection.
Oh, you Jet. You're just saying that for the you're saying that for the audio, Matt. You've got CDs stashed away.
I got 36, I think.
So, Matt.
Yes.
Our new feature. One of our new features. It's now settling into the show.
I know, it's kind of bedded in now.
It is. It's like a
Feels good.
Yeah, it's like a nicely fitting pair of Levi 501s.
I was thinking a nicely fitted pair of slippers. But okay, let's go with your more rock and roll.
Yes, this is where we talk about new rock on the block, new releases, new albums, new artists. So,
yes,
one of the hotly anticipated albums of 2023 dropped. That's what the kids say, isn't it? The album dropped.
They do, sir. Yeah. They do. How are they doing, by the way, kids?
Kids are okay. Kids, it's exam times.
It is.
Yeah.
They're all busy revising, aren't they? Kids
Yeah.
are all right, though.
The kids are good. Kids are good. So these kids that we're going to talk about first on New Rock in the Block is the Metallica kids. So they have just released 72 Seasons, Matt. Their 11th studio album.
Wow.
It's a long album, again, 77 minutes. I've listened to it, and as you know, which is always good when you're doing a review of albums, always listen to it.
Yes. It helps.
It's very interesting, Matt. I have to say, the first few listens to it, I have to say it reminded me quite a bit of Master of Puppets mixed with a little bit of the Black Album. And it got me thinking, it must be very hard for a band like Metallica with a signature sound as they have to come out and do something very, very different. They tried it with St. Anger, and we all lost our mind because of the production and the drum sound. And I feel this album nestles nicely in between Master and Puppets and the Black Album. And it's, if you're looking for that retro Metallica 80s, there's hints of Nwabum in it, Matt. I'd be surprised you didn't like it because the riffs were just laden with riffs. And James Hetfield's vocal and lyrics was a real standout for me. But production-wise, I would have loved Bob Rock to be producing this album. It just didn't have that depth for me. It could have been a lot wider. But there's some fantastic standout tracks on the album. Sleepwalk My Life Away and You Must Burn, co-writes with Robert Trujillo, are fantastic. And Screaming Suicide is just, dare I say, Diamond Head could have made that song, Matt. It's just lots of riffs. And Kirk Hammett, who often gets a lot of bad press, Kirk sounded great. He's wearing his influences on his sleeve. His wah-wah. He sounded like Michael Schenker, and some of the tracks were early UFO. So for me, I think a solid 7.5 out of 10 for Metallica for me, Matt. Good album.
Very good.
Not an album of the year.
Bold statement, but okay. Yeah, similar to you, I think it's the natural kind of progression from last couple of albums, Death Magnetic and Hardwired for Self-Destruct. Yeah, there are some great songs on it. I mean, the kind of lead-off songs, as you say, Screaming Suicide, Lux Eterna, and If Darkness Had a Sun stand out. But also the title track is amazing. Really, really catchy riff. Great kind of album intro, as it were. But yeah, I liked it. I mean, it's the sound of Metallica.
It is.
And they, as you said, have tried to deviate. They have deviated over the years, and they still will. I'm sure they'll do a kind of more mellow acoustic songs, a la The Unforgiven and Nothing Else Matters, and so on. But like Maiden and Judas Priest and plenty of other bands in the sort of heavy metal bracket, that they, as you said, they've got a signature sound. They stick to it. The fans love it. This album in the UK was number 1 in the album charts, and its sales outsold the other 4 in the top 5 collectively.
Yeah.
So, clearly, still got huge appeal. And you get value for money, as you say, an hour and 17 minutes. You can't go wrong. But yeah, it's not going to be my album of the year, but because I've already maybe got that either coming down the pipeline or in my back pocket already. But more to come on that.
Oh, exactly.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a good album. And check it out, boys and girls.
Yeah, and the last track, Inamorata, we're in progressive territory. It's 11 minutes long. When I was listening to that track, it had shades of Black Sabbath, and it was quite riffy, a slower pace to it. It was. I know there's a lot of people talking about how long the album is, but as a last track, Inamorata's nice signature changes in it. James is singing fantastically well, but a real Sabbath feel to it. That slower riffy, which was great. So there you go, Metallica, 72 Seasons. Do we have a potential contender for either of the other two albums that we're going to discuss, Matthew, and we'll go next to The Answer and Sundowners.
Yeah, so Sundowners from The Answer, their first album since 2016's Solus album. And it's in a way similar. It's they're kind of moving away from their sort of traditional early sound of, if you like, classic rock. And this is a bit more of kind of a thoughtful album. First song, Sundowners, reminded me a bit of Robert Plant, actually, his kind of solo stuff. And it goes into more sort of traditional songs, Blood Brother and Oh Cherry and Want You to Want Me, Want You to Love Me. My favourite song on the album is Living on the Line. But yeah, it's well worth a listen. And they're from your part of the world, of course, The Answer from Northern Ireland.
They are indeed.
Do you know them?
Not personally. They don't live around the street. No. Yeah, from Newton Ards and Newcastle in County Down.
Okay. So I enjoyed it. It's a good album, and it's a worthy comeback album. They've stuck to their sort of they've stuck to their roots, as it were. But they've got quite a contemporary sound. The guitar, and again, going back to your ability as a guitar player, you would recognise the kind of the way the amplification they've used and the guitar style is quite contemporary. Reminded me a little bit of the Rival Sons, a little bit of Royal Blood stylistically, but yeah. I enjoyed it, and I played it a few times, and I'll carry on playing it. And we'll see them a few times in the summer. They're playing a few festivals in the UK and probably elsewhere. So if you get a chance to see The Answer, then check them out.
This is my first serious contender for Album of the Year.
Is it?
I loved Sundowners, Matt. Wow. The opening track, as you say, Sundowners itself, it had that sort of trippy Robert Plant vibe with it was very loops and shamanic in some ways. That drone that you can get, kind of a bit Doorsy. And then you move into the other tracks on the album, as you say, like Blood Brothers. My favorite track on the album's California Rust. I love it, and you nailed it. For me, this album it's kind of a mixture of Jack White with the White Stripes and the Rival Sons being fronted by Robert Plant. Cormac's vocal on this album is just fantastic. It's we're not in the Miles Kennedy vocal range, but Cormac is nailing it. It's fantastic. And you go through the album, and even the last track on the album, Always All Right, which is a nice acoustic tune. Yeah, it just shows you the nice dynamics of the band. So it really is. And I've listened to the album a few times now, and it just they've really delivered on this. It's been a fair old break since Solace came out, and they've got their headline tour later on in the year and a few festivals. I think The Answer are back. I love this album, Matt. Fabulous.
Good. Wow. Well, funny you should talk about a contender of album of the year for you, but the Winery Dogs album 3 is certainly one of mine. What an album this is. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's great. It's you could go to it. It's got 10 tracks in it. You can go to track 10 or track 8 or track 2, and the quality is so consistent throughout.
Yeah.
And of course, fantastic players in Richie Kotzen, Billy Sheehan, and of course the great Mike Portnoy. But that's it. Good songs, relatively short songs, and each of the players, even though they are virtuosos on their instruments, they're quite understated.
Yeah,
I felt.
Yeah.
Good variety in terms of different sort of styles, a bit funky in places, rocky in other places. But yeah, I think it's my favourite Winery Dogs album by some distance. And as I say, certainly a contender for album of the year as far as I'm concerned. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bri?
I completely agree. Sometimes a band can nail their sound in the first album or two. And with this album, I think the Winery Dogs, they're now the trio. And I think lockdown's probably helped them a bit, where they've been able to just spend a lot more time crafting the songs, because it's a very song-driven album.
Yeah.
Richie's vocal, I know he gets a lot of comparisons to Chris Cornell and even Prince. It is a very, very funky album. And it's just fabulous, the songs. And all three of them are virtuosos. Richie's an amazing guitar player. Billy Sheehan goes without saying. He's one of the most dexterous bass players out there, and Portnoy can play anything. But it's all about the songs. So it's great chorus. As Matt plays his imaginary drum kit with 51 toms. But it's all about the songs, and it's the groove. And even on the first track, I love listening to the album. On the first track on the album, which is Xanadu, which was the first single. Even when you listen to the end of the song, you can hear Mike Portnoy drop the sticks. It's as if we've just got the end of the song, throw the sticks away. So it's got a real live feel for a recording. So I'm with you. It's a grower of an album. So who knows? It could be up there for me as an album of the year for 2023. Some notable releases, not albums as much, that have come out, which will be interesting to our listeners. Joe Bonamassa has just released a new single with the band. They're like a funk covers band called Scary Pockets, and they've done a reworking of Back in Black, which is fantastic. Go if it's available, Matt, to stream on our playlist. Put it on there. It's fantastic. It's a great sort of soul funky version of AC/DC's Back in Black. The singer on it, Joanne Jones, does a great job, and the keyboard player in Scary Pockets is called Jack Conte, and he's actually the CEO of Patreon, where people so it's a great version. Joe's very understated, and he's brilliant. And the final single, which has come out over the last couple of weeks, which is from Joel Hoekstra's 13, and a little bit of a connection from last time's show, is Joel's released his single, which is called Far Too Deep. And the band on the album, star-studded band on the single, is obviously Joel playing guitars. Jeff Scott Soto is on backing vocals, and the drumming and the rhythm section are Tony Franklin, who's on bass, and Vinny Appice from the Dio band are all in Joel's band. And the lead singer is Girish.
From Girish and the Chronicles, as discussed last time.
Absolutely. And Girish is sounding absolutely fantastic. And Jeff Scott Soto is doing all the backing vocals. So the album's out later this year. I think it may be coming out in June. But go and check out Far Too Deep, which is Joel Hoekstra's first single off his up-and-coming album. And that's me for New Rock on the Block.
So, Brian, that brings us to the A to Z of rock.
Yep.
And the letter C.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So, where else can we start apart from the great man, Sir David of Coverdale, also known as David Covenants, of course. For those who have been listening to this podcast for a while, you know why. David Coverdale. I mean, what a guy. Discovered in a clothes shop in Redcar. Was it Redcar? I never know how to pronounce that place. In the northeast of England. He was working there. And then ended up being Deep Purple singer. Then Whitesnake singer. Coverdale Page. I mean, just what a legacy! What a singer! And what is at his peak, one of the greatest singers ever, I think, in the rock genre. I think you'd agree with that, Brian.
I would completely agree with that. He owes Ian Pace a pint of beer, because it was Pacey that dug through the cassettes and liked the tone of David's voice and gave it to Richie and said, "I think this is a contender," and the rest is history.
I know.
You could only start with David
That's right. And a very funny guy as well. He's quite active on social media. A bit rude at times, but funny as well. And as you've said several times, he does like an unboxing. That does
He
seem to be a
do-
thing now, isn't it? Oh look, boys and girls, it's the new CD I'm going to unbox,
Yes.
and off he goes. Um,
And I go and buy it, Matthew.
absolutely. But yeah, I was lucky enough to see Whitesnake back in '81. One of my early gigs when I was 15, 16. And I mean, an amazing frontman. Had that sort of aura about him, and as an amazing singer. And of course, was on a couple of C related albums in Come Taste the Band and Come and Get It.
Yeah.
Just two good albums. We'll put some songs of both those on.
Any excuse, Matthew.
I know. This podcast is the playlist is dominated always by Whitesnake and Deep Purple, and put some Coverdale Page on as well.
Another C that is synonymous with David is Sir Vivian of Campbell.
Of course.
The guitar
How can we
slinger.
forget? Indeed, the great man himself. Have we ever mentioned Vivian Campbell?
I was just going to say, I think Vivian's up there with he is probably the most mentioned person on our podcast, apart from Diamond Head and King's X, who are entities. But in terms of the person, I would say it's a close run thing between Vivian, Tony Iommi, and Brian Tatler.
It's true, actually. Yeah. If anyone ever listens to every second episode and does these stats, they'll probably exactly show that.
Yeah.
But yeah, not to be underrated. Was I remember him when he was in Sweet Savage, one of those Nwabum bands that came out of Northern Ireland, who was plucked from there by Ronnie Dio to be the guitarist in Dio. I think he was about 19 at the time.
He
wasn't
was.
He was in Dio.
Yeah.
And then from there, where did he go from there, Bri? You know better.
And Jimmy Bain will come. We'll talk about Jimmy Bain later on the show, about another young hotshot guitarist. But yes, Jimmy Bain was the one who put him in the line of sight for Ronnie, and he gave him two guitarist names. He gave him John Sykes, who was in Tigers of Pantang, and he gave him Vivian. And yes, after the Dio band, Vivian, he went touring with Whitesnake on the massively successful 1987 album and the tour for 2 years. He ended up working with the River Dogs, which is a fantastic band that I love, and we've mentioned them as a hidden gem. He's done various solo work, and then he ended up in the home that he, after the sad passing of Steve Clark, another C. And he's been the new guy in Def Leppard for 30 years.
That's right. And of course, with his own project, Last in Line, as well, in the background.
That's true.
We talked about last time. So, yeah, amazing. Sir Vivian Campbell.
Exactly.
Alongside Sir David Coverdale. That's great. That's great. Talking of other singers, Chris Cornell, of course, the late Chris Cornell.
Yes.
I think we should give him a mention because, again, one of the most amazing voices and one of the most amazing. He had it all, Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
Very, very gorgeous man, fantastic singer, could play guitar, wrote songs. And as I say, sadly, no longer with us. But I mean, what another guy! What a legacy he left with Soundgarden and Audio Slave, and just incredible.
There probably was a time, Matt, in the mid-90s on the release of Super Unknown, and at the time when the single Black Hole Sun was out, I think Soundgarden were probably the biggest band in the world.
Yeah, certainly up there.
They were up there in terms of the MTV video. They were probably one of the shining lights of new rock in the mid 90s. Good news for those fans of Soundgarden and Chris Cornell. Hopefully, quite soon we should be able to hear some of the material that Chris had been recording with the guys in Soundgarden. Be nice to hear some new material from Chris and see what he was doing with the guys. But you couldn't do the C's without mentioning the fabulous artist that is Chris Cornell. So Matt, it's not all about albums and people in the this is our A to Z of rock. This is our
Yes.
This is what we would put in. And I have to put in, for all of the drummers that are out there, a cowbell.
Yes.
How many great rock and roll songs have got a cowbell in it? We have to mention Don't Fear the Reaper.
Of course. That's probably the number one cowbell song of all time, isn't it?
Well, you say that, and I'd probably agree with you. However, one's just come into my mind, and when I tell you which one it is, you're going to go, big contender. Honky Tonk Woman by the Rolling Stones. Charlie
That's a good
Watts.
shout, actually. Yeah.
Also, Mississippi Queen from Mountain was a great cowbell tune. Oh my goodness, Moby Dick. Even the scary Good Times, Bad Times from Led Zeppelin's opening track on the debut album.
Oh, yeah. He plays a little kind of parodiddle on
What John Bonham is doing, I've no idea. Rock of Ages by Def Leppard's got cowbell. The cowbell, a staple accessory in any rock drummer's arsenal of percussive equipment.
I couldn't agree more. Fantastic.
Coming from a guitarist.
Yeah. I think you covered it. I mean, it's just, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because everyone loves the cowbell in rock songs. And of course, you can buy the T-shirt from the Saturday Night Live sketch with Will Ferrell, which is parodying the recording of Don't Fear the Reaper, which of course is all about more cowbell.
Yes, with Christopher Walken.
Exactly. If you go to a festival, I guarantee you'll see several more cowbell T-shirts.
Yeah.
It's a great shout.
Yeah.
That's a great shout. Talking of T-shirts, of course, one of the things that we've often talked about in the context of rock and metal is clothes.
Yes,
How
the
important-
uniform.
The uniform, exactly. Now, the uniform, as I think we've said many times, is largely kind of dominated by denim and leather, and has been since the late 70s. And of course, you can point to various bands who sort of developed that look. Motorhead, of course. When I was young, I've said many times, I kind of modelled myself on Lemmy, long hair, leather jacket, jeans, bullet belt. Didn't have the white cowboy boots, fortunately. And then because
That's good. That's good.
That's true. Iron Maiden and Judas Priest kind of took the image further and so on. But the importance of clothing on stage, of course. And it always struck me as being a bit odd that you had the fans wearing kind of denim and leather and jeans and T-shirts and all that sort of stuff, but the bands certainly in the early 80s were in spandex. What's all that about?
Are you picturing Pete Way now? Pete Way, Steve Harris,
exactly,
Twisted Sister.
Well, whoever it was, Biff Byford or Bruce Dickinson and so on. I mean, spandex. I think that's one of the probably the crimes against fashion in the rock world is why spandex, which essentially is kind of like a workout. It's like wearing yoga pants on stage.
Yeah.
Sort of workout. I never really understood it, but I mean, I don't think you see. Fortunately, you don't see so much spandex anymore. No. But even now, when we go to festivals, I think we all still wear the uniform. We mentioned the battle jacket last time, the black T-shirt with the band name on it, and obviously tour dates on the back. I must have told you the story once. My wife and I were at a festival, and she looked. There was a person in front of us, and they're wearing a T-shirt which had a festival lineup on it because you've got the 3 days and so on. She said, she was looking down. She nudged me and said, "That looked like a good festival, didn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, we were there." And it was the previous year's, I don't know, Rambling Man or something like that. She'll hate me for telling that, but there you go. It's done now. But yes, it's the clothes is very important, top to toe. Whether it be the baseball boots or the jeans or the leather. You used to have a pair of leather trousers, of course. You told us last time.
Yeah.
All goes into the package, so to speak, of the rock and metal uniform.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I have to say, thank goodness for bands like Metallica, in the early 80s, Matt, for getting us to wear white baseball boots rather than the white cowboy white cowboy boots. You know, that was just not that was a look just for Lemmy. Lemmy was the only one that could get away with white cowboy boots. Nobody else.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
but then even the cowboy boots themselves, Matt, it seemed to be
cowbell boots.
no, cowboy boots. It seemed to be us in the UK. We wore our cowboy boots inside our jeans.
Oh yeah.
But then as we moved through the 80s, as we were refining our uniforms, think about those spandex wearing American glam metal boys, and they were wearing their cowboy boots over their jeans and their spandex. It was
shocking.
It was again. Thank goodness we didn't live in America at that time, Matt, or we would have been wearing cowboy boots over.
I can just picture you in spandex and cowboy boots outside your spandex trousers, Bri.
With my meatloaf jacket.
Exactly. Meatloaf, denim jacket. Look great. Maybe a cowboy hat on top.
Thanks.
Or even a cowbell hat. Anyway, other notable mentions in the world of the seas in the AZ of rock, of course. Creed. We talked about that a few times.
Yep.
Fantastic band. Put some Creed on the playlist. Creedence Clearwater Revival. Funded by the great John Fogerty, of course. Touched upon them a few times in the context of suing themselves for plagiarism.
The wonderful Eric Clapton.
Of course.
One third of the Holy Trinity of the Yardbirds. Eric, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page.
That's right. And of course, 1/3 of Cream, another C. We'll put just another excuse to put Eric Clapton, Yardbirds, Cream, you name it, on the playlist. Of course, Alice Cooper. We can't forget Alice Cooper. Strictly speaking, not his real name. Maybe he should be under F. Or Fernier, of course. There you go. Vincent Fernier's real name. But we'll put some Alice Cooper on. Yeah. Good old Alice. Uncle Alice. Bless him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alice as well, too. Disc jockey. Are we allowed to call them disc jockeys or presenters?
I think I don't know.
He's a presenter on Planet Rock.
Yeah, he was all over the world, and he got a syndicated radio show. Nights with Alice Cooper, of course. Well worth a listen.
And he used to have a feature on the Classic Rock magazine as well.
Yes, indeed. Classic Rock magazine, which has been going, I think, I started buying it in 2001. I think it's been going since 1999.
Okay.
Nearly 25 years. Unbelievable. Yes, so many C's to get through. We haven't mentioned the Cadillac 3, the Cult, Copperhead Road album by Steve Earle, and so on. So, Brian, next time it'll be D.
Mm-hmm.
The letter D in the A to Z of rock. I think we're going to have fun with that one.
Oh, God. Yes. I wonder if a well-known Nwabum band will be. Yeah.
Possibly.
I'll get you back when we get to K.
That's right. Or X, even. we might have to use them for X, of course.
That's true. So, Matt, another new feature that we've added in our 2023 shows is Unsung Hero. And the Unsung Hero I am putting forward, nominating for this episode, is a phenomenal guitarist called Lawrence Archer. So Lawrence is one of those guitar players who he's probably well known for working with UFO. He's currently the main songwriter and guitar player in Grand Slam. And obviously, Grand Slam, he wrote many of the songs together with Phil Lynott and Mark Stanway. And he started his career working with Stampede. And we mentioned this earlier in the show, we mentioned Jimmy Bain. And he also was a member of Wild Horses for a while. So I just wanted to call out Lawrence as one of those great unsung heroes, and somebody who's had to follow in the footsteps of Michael Schenker, Paul Chapman in UFO. Yeah. Obviously, with the demise of Thin Lizzy, when Phil put his solo band together and then started to put Grand Slam together, it really was a vehicle for Lawrence as well too, and a lot of the writing. Grand Slammer Back on the Road. I think we talked about in earlier episodes the album that they released not so long ago, which was Hit the Ground, which was a great album. A lot of the material that was on that was from the Grand Slam era, where he'd written with Phil. But one of the things I just wanted to call out, and I read it on social media as well too, is Lawrence is one of those artists who has written lots of material, and over the years, albeit he's had to register a lot of his catalogue and re-register it and go to court to get money and to actually own the rights to his own material. And he put an impassioned statement out on Facebook not so long ago, just talking through probably the pitfalls of being a young man in the record business. And, you know, we'll probably talk about it when we talk about Hidden Gems, where get a lawyer and get a second lawyer, and if you're not happy, get a third lawyer. I just thought it just hit a chord with me for somebody as talented as Lawrence has, and some of the songs that he's written. And it typifies the song Dedication. I can remember when the Thin Lizzy compilation album that came out in the early 90s, and it was this forgotten tune, this lost tune with Phil singing on it, and they packaged together a video with various members of Thin Lizzy, and I'm not sure who played on it. I think Brian Downey played drums on it, and it was credited, I think, as a Phil Lynott song, and it was actually written by Lawrence. So for me, I'm a big fan of Lawrence. I'm a big fan of Grand Slam. I think I like the classy way that he does his business. Looking forward to their new album of new material. And I just want to call out Lawrence. Great guitar player, still works well, works hard, and a very good songwriter. So my unsung hero for this episode, Matt, is Lawrence Archer. Anything you want to add on Lawrence?
Not really. I think you covered it beautifully. As you said, great guitarist, been with lots of bands over the years, and I saw him last year with Grand Slam, and yeah, great frontman, good guitarist, and as you say, great songs. So we wish him well in the future, of course. So, Brian, that brings us to
Hidden Gem Time.
Thanks, Lola. As always, sounded good. So I've got an excellent one for you, actually.
Oh,
if you'd like me to go first.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm happy to. So, surprisingly, this is a hidden gem from AC/DC. So I remember when this came out, and I revisited it this week, and it's an album from 2009 called Backtracks. Now, it's essentially a kind of a compilation of B-sides and rarities, and songs that, let's say, didn't fit on the original albums. For example, it's got Dog Eat Dog from the live album from 1978. If You Want Blood, You Got It. It's got 12-inch version of Who Made Who. It's got early Bon Scott stuff, original Australian release of The Rocker, and plenty of live stuff from the Brian Johnson era, and so on. And it's great. It's a lot of it you won't have heard before, unless you're an absolute AC/DC completist. But well worth checking out. And runs at nearly 4 hours, so it'll keep you busy for a while. Sounds like one of our playlists. So my hidden gem for this show, young Brian, is Backtracks by the mighty AC/DC from 2009. Do you remember that? Do you remember when it came out?
I've got it. I have it.
Of course you have. Of course you have. It's in a kind of an amp-shaped box.
Yep.
That's right.
I treated myself to it many, many years ago. My hidden gem for this episode it's a documentary, it's just been released. It's not free on streaming just yet, but it was released over the weekend, and it is a documentary about John Waite, and it's called John Waite the Hard Way. I'm a massive John Waite fan. obviously through the, Missing You being his big single and the work that he did with Bad English. But this is a really, I suppose, intimate documentary about John and his life. He started out, he's a Lancashire boy, and he started out with the band called The Babies. And if I could just summarise the Babies' career for John Waite, 6 albums, 5 tours, and he had $6,000 in the bank. That's the amount of, and it's the documentary itself. It's just how John, he just reflects on his whole career. He actually comes across as a very, very sincere writer, quite a personal interviews, and it was all done during COVID, Matt, where John's desperate to get out to play, with his band, and he was really just at home in probably quite a reflective mood whilst he was just talking about his career, and it's again a little bit in line with what we were discussing around Lawrence Archer. There's John's had to work really, really hard and fight really hard to get back the rights for a lot of his own material because he wasn't making any money out of it. But he's a content man now. He plays when he wants. He writes new material. And it's 90 minutes, so it's quite a short documentary. If you don't know anything about John, watch it. He is his own man. A lot of people found him hard to work with and said he wasn't somebody who could really play in bands, but I warmed to him. One slight, if I was to pick out one slight omission in the documentary, they really skirted over the Bad English period, so we didn't really get to discuss how they got together. Because Ricky Phillips and John Cain had both of them had been in the Babies with John. So we skirted completely over that, and I was kind of interested to see how him and Neil Sean had worked. That was where they had a Billboard #1 single with "When I See You Smile." But overall, apart from that omission in his career, it was a really interesting documentary on John Waite. So my hidden gem for this episode is just released on Amazon Prime. It's John Waite, The Hard Way.
Very good. Yeah, I'll check it out. Sounds good.
Good.
Amazing singer, great voice.
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to that. So that's it, Brian. Another episode done, dusted, signed, sealed, in the bag. Complete. Enjoy that?
I did indeed. It was great. Looking forward to next episode. We'll talk about the letter D, which will be fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. But for now, thanks for listening, everyone. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, send us a letter. Or if you see us in the street, come and say hello. We haven't got many friends, so, the more the merrier. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Bye for now.
Bye for now, everyone. See ya.
Those About the Pod, We Salute You is a Maylie Rogers production.